Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your live Discord post-match Raw on AI Pro. Podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful rural Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and joining me to give their immediate reactions to the frankly batshit Liverpool 3, Benfica 3 in the Champions League from Anfield are Dave Hendrick and Karl Matchett. A mad game, Dave. Kind of annoyingly so. We had some lovely football from us, but it just felt very higgledy-piggledy and disjointed, and I suppose that's because that's the way the manager approached it, and he pretty much bent every possible rule he could have bent in advance, and I suppose these things then will probably happen.
Yeah, I mean, when you put that team out in the first half, you're not really expecting liquid football at all, and when you make as many changes as we did, and then we seemed to get a little bit obsessed with getting Bobby a hat-trick and trying to pass the ball into the back of the net and stuff, and obviously it's two individual errors in not holding the defensive line that gift them their second and third goals, and an individual error that gifted, or not, I don't even know if you'd call it an individual error, but like a fluke circumstance that gifted them their first. It was just a weird game, you know, and the same thing with our goal. We get two from set pieces, one from a calamity by Jan Vertonghen. It's just a really strange game. There was some good football. There was some spells where nothing happened. There was some flat out bad football. But all in all, it was just sort of an not uneventful is the wrong word, but it never really brought you any anxiety because we had the 2-0 or the 2-goal lead from the first game. You felt kind of comfortable, or at least I did, throughout the game. It never sort of worried me that they were going to come back. I never felt in any way that we were under too much pressure. So, you know, it was just sort of a game you could kind of watch without ever really having your emotions dip up or down.
You know what? I think that's actually pretty much exactly where I was with it as well. And Karl, that's kind of the overall take from it, isn't it? You know, it was one of those games where I very rarely find myself lying back on the couch, primarily because I'm taking notes. But sometimes you just, either a game is gone, which almost never happens, or it's just in that sort of weird zone, like Dave's describing, where we're either way ahead or you just don't have that normal level of anxiety. And, you know, I'd say we might be in the minority not having that anxiety as they kept battering in goals towards the end there, and you know, VAR, the boys in VAR were overworked. But, you know, I hate to be the cliche merchant here, but maybe it's because it just didn't fucking matter. We just needed to get past them and do enough to get past them. And that would probably explain the lineup at the start. And that would probably explain the patches of beautiful football and patches of not so beautiful football that went to make up that overall Liverpool performance.
I think that's fair. I think, you know, you got to understand, obviously, the midfield being thrown together as it was, and obviously the fullbacks who are so critical to our build-up play as well being changed. It was never going to be as fluid as it usually is, and that straight away lends itself to the game not feeling as serious. You know, before kickoff, it's not like we were taking it as a joke or taking it easy or anything like that, because there was certainly still a lot of energy and still a lot of intent from our players. But you already know that it's not Man City away, let's be honest. You know, the lineup already tells you that it's not that game. So kind of understandable, I suppose, that it was a little less stressful, and I think that the 2 goals was a really big thing. I think it probably highlights just how big that third goal late on was in the first leg, to be fair, because it might not have been quite as laid back otherwise. It might not quite have been that lineup otherwise, and in the end, we can say everything worked out perfectly fine for us, but it was close enough that we probably couldn't have done all of the tactical and the changes that we did if it was only 1 goal in it at kickoff.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with that. It was, I think Jurgen pushed it to the very, very limit. As I was looking at it, and let's get straight into this as a way into looking at the Liverpool lineup, and I'll give you both a take on this because I want to get a take from both of you. And stay with you, Karl, for a second. As you know, news was filtering through about the team. I know, again, it's old school, but you just couldn't help but feel that, that old thing of, well, we know now what, old Verissimo is going to be saying to his players, because the level of disrespect involved in that lineup, when you see who's on the bench, when you see who could have played, there's a high level of disrespect coming towards Benfica in that lineup, I think, and I don't think it's too cruel to say that. It's lovely that we got a chance to do it, but you are aware that there's an element of risk involved, regardless of the build up of the 2-goal cushion in the first leg. I mean, I'm sure you would have expected quite a few changes, and when yourself and Dave were talking about this in advance, you would have expected quite a few changes, but not on this level, man, surely.
No, we went for quite a few fewer. We did, for example, say that Kanate would be in, and Dave picked Tsimikas to play, and we both made a couple of changes up front, for example. Neither of us left out both Fabinho and Van Dijk. That is a Klopp thing alone, and I don't think that there will ever become a game other than like FA Cup third rounds where we do decide in the game, in the scouted before the match, we'll leave those 2 out. That's not for us to feel comfortable about. That's just for Jurgen to do. Look, it's a real balancing act as well, because it's not just us and how we feel and how we approach the game, but being in that dressing room for Benfica, as soon as they see the Liverpool lineup and some of those names are missing, they're thinking, oh my God, we've got a chance. We've got a much bigger chance than we actually thought when we were coming to Anfield. So you've got to manage that side of it as well, and I think that that's probably something you could see in the first few minutes where they were quite quick, quite energetic, trying to get forward a little bit quickly. If they had scored first or really early on, get the fans on side, make Anfield a little bit nervous, it could have gone a different way. So again, I think that to an extent, we have to be praised is probably a bit too strong for what I want to say, but we did well enough to again, I don't think control is quite the right word, but we did enough to stop them being in control anyway.
Dave, Karl's right to focus on the opening part of the game, because obviously that's when you're going to see the real impact of all the changes on a team. We hear lots of talk about rhythm from Jurgen. How you can expect to have any when you have that many changes is beyond me. And in those opening 20 minutes, just before Ibu Konate puts us ahead, I mean, this is the last thing I want to do. I want Jimmy Miller to be on a statue somewhere, and I can call around to him and have a cup of tea with him and tell him what a great lad he is. I've tremendous time for James Milner. But the lad just wasn't able for that tonight, and you could see it from minute 1. I think there was one stage there in the first half where he's about 6 shit touches in a row. Between himself sort of looking panicky and not being able to do things the way I know he wants to do them, I felt awful for him. It just felt as if the dubiety of Jurgen's selection was really evident in those opening minutes before we did get that cushion of the Konate goal. And, it was a risk. And, I mean, I'm delighted that in the end it's paid off. I genuinely am. But it was a risky lineup, Dave.
Anytime you see Milderson in midfield together, it's generally going to conjure up bad feelings because, well, they've generally been terrible together. That's just how it is. You can carry one of them. You can't carry both. As Adam says, I mean, look, 4 years ago when they could both run, that midfield didn't work. Neither of them can run, but against a team like Benfica, who came and were a little in on how slow and ponderous that side of the midfield was, they might have taken advantage of it. I mean, you can go visit James Milner statues all you want, Trev. I will happily wave him goodbye in the summer because
I know you will.
The guy can't play. The guy was bang average in his prime, and he can't play and hasn't been able to play for 3 years. And
but did you not? Did you not?
Standard setter and all this bullshit. Like, I'm
did
sorry.
You not
Great players don't turn around and look at mediocrity and think, I wish I could be like him.
Well, did you not think it looked particularly painful for the lad tonight? Like, that game that I'm always going on about it because I thought it was a really interesting point that Gary Neville made one time back when he was good. And he talked about the game where he could feel that, oh shit, I can't do this anymore. Like his legs were gone, whatever it was. And it's not about fitness, you see. This is the fucking thing. It doesn't matter how many shuttle runs Jimmy Miller wins.
Milner's as fit as anyone in the club. Milner can run great distances very, very slowly. But unfortunately, football's not played at a slow pace. Look, we've seen him play this season. Was that his first start since January? Has he started since that abomination he turned in at Chelsea?
I don't think so.
Because you could tell then he couldn't play anymore. So none of the blame for his performances can go on him. James Milner turns up to work, does his best, puts in his shift, and it's the manager who continues to pick him and put him in bad situations where he can't play. It's simple as that. He cannot play anymore. Like, you can tell that his brain knows what it wants to do and his body just can't get him there at all. And it was painful watching him tonight. He's plodding around the pitch. He's making a shuttle run and then he's out of position for the next 60 or 90 seconds because he just can't get back into position. And shout out to Ian Doyle, who gave him a 7 out of 10 for his first half performance, while giving Naby, who was carrying water for everybody in midfield, a 6 out of 10. Well done, Ian. Your BNP membership is in the post, but
wow.
Milner can't play anymore. It's as simple as that. That needs to be the last game he ever starts in a Liverpool shirt. And frankly, unless we're 3-0 up and there's 5 minutes left, it should be the last time he sets foot on the pitch for Liverpool. Let him go and play at a club more suiting of his abilities. But the thing is, right now, there's not a Premier League team that he gets into, not even the crap at the bottom. He doesn't even get into their teams because he can't run enough. He doesn't have the legs to do it. He can run slowly over long distances, but any kind of dynamic burst from him, and he's just breathing out of his arse.
Yeah, just even sharpness. You could just see that. He was full stretch and everything was sort of extended legs and no calm at all. And I genuinely felt sorry for him. Because it just felt to me like, oh, well, I know what you're saying. You could see it before and absolutely there was evidence, but just tonight it just looked so bad for the poor fella.
It reminded me of like when you go back and play 5-a-side after like 2 months out and you think you're going to do something and then the balls run past you just before you actually turn in time and you're like, oh, puff of the cheeks there. Just on Milner before we move on from the early stages as well, big shout out to the BT boys tonight who in the first 5 minutes of the game told us that Diaz was playing in his favoured left-hand side role and that James Milner was Liverpool's number 6. I quite enjoyed both of those. That was a good start to the night.
That was great because you can always rely on insight like that from Martin Keown, the massive helmet head. The Benfica team, let's take a quick look at them before we march into the details of the match, because God knows there's enough of those to be keeping us busy. So we'll just get this done quite quickly. Dave, I'll go to you on this in terms of what it was that Verissimo was trying to do. I think there were some players rested in advance of this game from what I could tell from the ramblings of Ian Darke pre-match. But it was a very much as strong as they could get. I know they brought on Yaremchuk, who scored, and João Mario, who's a useful enough kind of an individual and was involved in the goal as well. Bernardo came on at some point for them too, and Almeida. But that's probably how you guys would have guessed he was going to go, yes or no?
I thought João Mario might have started. Obviously, Rafa Silva was injured, so he didn't play. And that was the big blow to them. But Rafa Silva, João Mario, I thought was the one that would come in. Concalves, to me, just he's not up to the level required. I actually thought today, I was thinking about it and I was wondering, would he start Yaramchuk up front with Darwin, or even with Darwin just off him, and just go with a more attacking lineup and be a bit more aggressive from the off? Sort of what he went to when he brought Yaramchuk on and he had Everton on one wing and he moved Darwin out to the left with sort of, a 1-and-1 front two. But yeah, other than João Mario, it's the only real surprise. I mean, Adel Taarabt starting for them is a bit like Milner starting for us. He could never be arsed with running. Like, at least Milner enjoyed the running aspect of the game. Adel's never really been arsed, and he's so immobile now. He did still manage to nutmeg Milner twice, but it's like a turnstile in midfield for them, and that's kind of where they fall down, because they try and be aggressive, and yet they get numbers beyond the ball. They get turned over, and it's so easy to play through them going the other way. Like, we just played through Adel Taarabt all night. The poor fella looked like he was spinning around in circles at one point. But no, that's more or less the team that we expected, and I think they're a strong unit with some good players, but there's clear flaws in that team.
Yeah. And sadly, I think, made them look far better than they are over both legs, if I'm being perfectly honest. Let's get into the details of the game itself, which was started by our referee, who was, comparatively okay over the course of the night. I thought missed a couple of spectacularly obvious calls, but nothing too game changing. That was down to the VAR boys, and we'll decide whether they were controversial or not as we go. So, Karl, maybe you and I'll take the first 20 up as far as Ibu's goal. The first thing of note that I made any sense to me anyway was a dangerous Nunez ball in on 3 minutes. But I think the attacker was offside. 9 minutes in, we got a decent ball in by Tsimikas, and just pause here to say I thought that kid was fantastic over the course of the game. Genuinely loved that lad, I have to say. He's such a high quality option to have to come in for Robbo. You don't almost notice any drop off at all. He's just great, I think. 10 minutes in, Nunez was breaking, carrying down the left. He did Joel Matip up like a kipper, got to the byline, but his pullback was intercepted. I can't remember who it was coming back. I think it might have been Naby, and the ball goes to Ali, and danger averted. 12 minutes after an absolutely appalling Milner cross from a free kick. It was set to him, and he crossed it from the right. But it was a daisy cutter, and they break. Everton got a shot in, and it was narrowly wide, and it wasn't a bad little hit from the kid, and could have nestled in the back of Ali's net. We should be starting to see a little bit of signs here that things might not go the way we want them to. 14 minutes. However, Jota does pull off a 1-2 with Bobby Firmino. The keeper got out to his feet. Meanwhile, Jimmy Milner's stretching and just missing most things. A chance then, great move, ended with a Diaz ball into the aforementioned Jimmy, who got as far forward as he had been all match and wasn't able to finish from point blank. To be fair, it was quite a mass of bodies and feet around him. And then on 20 minutes, and you'd have to say it's not exactly against the run of play, but they've carried a threat. But we do go 1-0 up, and it should be a match killer. It's from Ibu Konate. Tsimikas, the aforementioned left back, with a fantastic delivery from the corner. Love the shape he puts on those outswingers. And Ibu gets up. More of a challenging effort than he had in the last leg, and heads the ball down, textbook style again, and into the corner, bounces up into the corner. It's a fantastic finish. I felt we were possibly absolutely a little bit fortunate to be one up on the balance of that particular 20 minutes. Did you read it differently?
No, probably not. We were okay. We were fine in terms of recycling it from the back, but the midfield passing was pretty atrocious throughout the first half, especially in that early period. Some of the time you could see that there was really nice combination plays when we were going sort of right to left, but anytime we tried to then get it into the final third, it was pretty hit and miss. I think we first have to pay tribute and sincere, unlucky sort of words of appreciation to Nicolas Otamendi for his almighty leap trying to stop Konate heading in that goal. I think he must have got at least 3 inches off the ground, and that's to be applauded for a man of his age. Not the finest night that I've ever seen a centre-back have, to be fair, apart from maybe one interception in the second half. There was also a moment just before the goal, I think, where I think the one you mentioned actually, where Milner broke into the box and then Firmino almost got the rebound as well. And again, the BT commentators say Nicolas Otamendi and Jan Vertonghen have not got too much pace. So they were applauding James Milner being the one that Liverpool threw forward to try and get in the box there. So I'm not sure what kind of race they were expecting exactly, but it was interesting to witness anyway. I have to say that you're absolutely right about Tsimikas, but I also think that even in that first quarter of the game, more or less, before his goal, Konate already had 2 or 3 moments again where he was monstrous, defensively really, really good. We saw one out on the our left touchline there, right, where he got across really, really quickly on the cover, won the ball, saw it back to the keeper. There was another one where he was in place for the cutout. If I think it was Cater in front of him, didn't get there first. And even for one of the chances where they were actually offside in that early period, he still got back and beat them before the flag went up. So again, I think over these 2 legs, he has been maybe the best performer if you average out the 2 performances across the 2 legs. Obviously, there was the big error in the first leg, but here I think, again, he was a very good indication of what's to come in seasons ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Look... Yeah, I don't want to be too controversial. I have to apologise to C-Stat, who's called me out there in the chats about being soft on the refs lately. I just didn't have anything to say of note. I'll get back to my usual critical self soon. The next chunk of the match, Dave, up to their equaliser, is an interesting spell. There is the ball's in the back of the net from Núñez, pretty much, within a couple of minutes of when we scored. We were opened up ruthlessly enough with a through ball, but he's offside. It's called offside, despite a really nice finish. That's 23 minutes. Then we see a lovely bit of Konate, and Karl's mentioned him. Almost straight after that, Jota was body checked. We didn't get to see another look at that. I'd like to have seen another look at that. They broke on the back of that, and Ibu Konate is running back towards his own goal on the right-hand touchline as we look, and he just eases his opposite member over the line and gets the throw in to boot. And I just thought, yeah, we've spoken about this before, you and I, in the last show, and he's just monster is what the lad is, and it's great to see. 26 minutes then, Diaz sold a gorgeous dummy. I saw one replay, so I didn't quite get to see who it was. Rasped a shot at the keeper. Great save from him, led to a corner from which we got nothing. Clear shirt pull then by Vertonghen in front of the aforementioned referee. No yellow, because okay. And then on the half-hour mark, Bobby has a header from a Diaz header. So Diaz has heads the ball across goal. Bobby heads the ball towards goal, but it goes off, I think, for Tongan's back, out for a corner. Nothing from that either. 31 minutes, Jota plays the ball into Bob again. His effort is blocked. And you'd have to say, okay, we're playing a bit of ball here. Yes, they've had that ball in the back of the net and all the rest of it. And yes, they do carry a threat, but we're starting to play a bit of ball, and boom, it's 1-1. Ramos has it in the net after James Milner lost a challenge. I don't know how harsh he could be on it. He's trying to stab a foot at it. It breaks and breaks to Ramos, and his finish is decent, and it goes to VAR, but it's given. That little chunk of the game was very interesting. Quite a lot going on, Dave. Talk to me about anything that took your notice there, and also the concession of the goal as well.
Yeah, the referee, I thought, had a bit of an odd one, because he's quite whistle happy, but then he let weird things go, like that. You mentioned the Jota one where he knocks the ball past Otamendi, and Otamendi just steps into him and shoulder charges him into his chest and puts him on his arse. That's clearly a free kick. Then we go down the other end and it's Ibu on Darwin. And again, you could argue that Ibu sort of steps out of his path towards the ball to shoulder charge Darwin and put him on his backside. And the referee lets that one go. And you think, okay, well, look, he's let that one go because he let the other one go. And the other one was far more egregious. So that balances itself out. He does give the free kick when Naby almost has his jersey removed from him by Vertonghen. And then you're looking and going, why? How is he not getting booked there? Like, Naby's taken the ball in and turned him, and we're away, and Jan Vertonghen is 35 years of age in a couple of months, and clearly is not going to get back into position, so he's just pulled at the shirt. You're like, well, how's that not a yellow card? So those are weird decisions by a referee who, over the course of this season, has been a little bit whistle happy in the Premier League, or in the Champions League rather, but generally has come into this game with quite a good reputation as one that likes the flow of the game and, you know, tries not to book players early on in games if he can avoid it. But when you see something as blatant as that Vertonghen one, that's got to be a yellow card. Their goal, you can't criticise Milner. I saw some people, look, there was nothing good really about Milner's performance today, but there's no blame for him on that goal because he's just trying to win a tackle, and he actually does win the tackle. He's just unfortunate with where the ball skews off to. I would ask questions of how Ramos found himself there unmarked, considering where he'd been 15 seconds previously, basically stood in our midfield, how he managed to drift all that way with nobody picking him up. But maybe he drifted in nobody from midfield obviously tracked him, and maybe the defence just thought, right, well, he's gone offside, we'll leave him be. It's just unfortunate. It's a freak incident, but it's not something you can criticise Milner for. He puts his foot in. You want him putting his foot in there. One of the few things he actually does well is put his foot in. That's one thing you can always rely on Milner for, is he will not shirk a challenge. He wins the challenges just that the ball skews to the one place you don't want it going. And credit to Ramos, it's an excellent finish. Like, it's a really, really good finish. So, you know, it is what it is. We're still comfortable in the game. We have been playing a little bit better football, like you said. Naby's now more involved. Diaz seems to be growing in confidence. Costas is marauding, is the only word I can think of, up and down that left wing. I genuinely think we might own two of the top 5 left backs in the Premier League. Robbo's the best. I would struggle to name, like, you know, Ben Chilwell is good. Is he better than Costas? I'm not sure. I don't think Luke Shaw is. You know, you've got Cancelo's very, very good, and I do like him, but you're kind of struggling. You've got Robbo, Cancelo, and then you're struggling to name anyone that's out and out better than Costas. If he was playing for another Premier League club, I think we'd be looking at him and thinking he's really fucking good. He's really, really good. So we're just very, very fortunate to have both him and Robbo, because the quality doesn't drop, and if anything, Costas takes better set pieces than Robbo does.
Yeah, it's interesting that, because as I think it was maybe yourself mentioned earlier on, the drop off on the other side is quite pointed, right? Because of the productivity that Trent has, and that's not Joe Gomez's game. It can't be. You can't expect that from him. He's going to play a different type of way, but he's going to also have to try to play in the way that we try to play, which is to get the fullbacks in creative positions and in place to do creative things. And obviously he's not going to be able to do what Trent, who's the best in the world at that, is going to be able to do. So it's just such a pronounced difference, and I think if we had anything approaching sort of the forward going output from a potential right back, then, you know, it's another area where the squad could be tweaked, I think, and hopefully someone's looking at that over the summer. We should look at the last part then, Karl, you and I, of the first half, because, you know, there'll be a lot of talk about, and I've been to blame already about Jimmy Milner and maybe Jordan Henderson and changes in the lineup and all the rest of it. But, it's when we've got, nominally a far better, more efficient, more like a first team lineup on the field that we start conceding goals in the second half. And to be fair, the response from the 11 who were on the pitch when we did concede an equaliser in the first half was really good, because we see Naby trying one from 35 yards after a nice bit of a touch and a flick by Jota created a break. That's soon after the equaliser. 37 minutes, a lovely ball forward. I'm going to give him the credit from Jimmy Milner. Ends with Bobby playing a through ball to Diaz that's just not hit with enough power, and Grimaldo slides in, gets a touch away from Diaz's feet. Otherwise, that's a goal. Then, a bad spell there for Jimmy straight after that, about 5 or 6 bad touches in a row. Nothing really much by way of creativity coming from certain quarters in this little period. And then on 44, Naby decides, okay, I'll have a shot again. Tries one from the edge of the D. It's narrowly wide, really well struck hit from the kid. 47 minutes, Joe Gomez raiding down from the right, has a half volley after a good ball in by Henderson to pick him out. And that's pretty much that in terms of that first half. Just to talk about the response to the concession of the goal by those guys who, we know are not our most creative and all the rest of it. You'd have to give a little bit of credit, because there were quite a few attempts there, and certainly one of them, maybe even two of them, that on a different night could have ended up as extra notches on the scoreline.
Yeah, I think probably a few of those shots were taken as a result of what you spoke about at the beginning, the fact that this felt like a little bit less of an important match. Maybe at that point we still had the 2-goal lead and we've only got half a game to go at that point almost. So again, maybe you wouldn't see Naby taking on both of those shots that he had. Maybe Joe Gomez wouldn't have tried to score his first goal ever. These things I felt, and even the build up to some of those, and not just Liverpool, but Benfica as well, it kind of felt like it was a playground kind of game is the only way I can describe it, where there's so much open space sometimes and a lot of turnovers. It's really, really quick tempo, which is fun to watch sometimes, but it's not necessarily the most refined or defensively solid performance you would see if it was, Sporting v Benfica or Liverpool v Man City some of the time, I pretty much agree with you that the team, like I said at the beginning, as much as could be expected, played well enough on and off the ball. There was definitely some erratic passing in midfield. I mean, by the time we got to half time, the central three had a completed pass rate of 67, 72 and 67, 72 and 82%. So it wasn't great in terms of ball retention and everything, especially when you consider how many recyclings there were around that central area and between the centre backs and all the rest of it. But overall, it was fine. We created a good few chances. They scored pretty much the only one that they had. It could have been better, but we didn't really have to worry too much at that point.
Yeah, and stay with me, because we'll go straight into the start of the second half, because it fits into the narrative that we're talking about here, and it fits into the whole shape of the discussion on the lineups, because it's the same team that comes out for the second half. Nothing of note really happens until about 9 minutes into the half, 54 on the 54-minute mark. Naby plays the ball through to Diaz. A Vertonghen clearance goes as far as Jota. He does this sort of scoop cross shot thing, and on the 55th minute, that ball is turned home by Bobby Firmino. Great finish. I was immediately nervous. It went to VAR. It's given. And then 2 minutes after the goal, we substitute Milner, Henderson and Jota and bring on Fabinho, Thiago and Mo Salah. And for a bit, and I'll talk to Dave about that, everything seemed to go well. Talk to me about just that very opening that opening spell of the second half and the goal that put us ahead from Bobby.
So first of all, the goal, I guess, that was all Firmino, by the way, all of it. The first closing down where we won the ball, that's Firmino closing them down and forcing the turnover. Then it breaks to, was it Vertonghen you said tried to clear it, and the reason he smashed it over the other side of the penalty box is because, again, Firmino was closing him down. He's going to lose the ball otherwise, and then he follows play all the way in and scores himself. That's pretty much in a nutshell what you'd say is classic Bobby at his very best, having the impact everywhere, whether he touches the ball or not. That's exactly what we want to see. Yeah. And as much as we've said, Diaz has come in and is fitting in perfectly straight away, and we've got real competition for places, Bobby Firmino has had himself, when fit and available, an unbelievably good season. Yeah, it's very, very easy to forget and overlook, but at the start of the season, his strike rate and where he was scoring the goals from was just ludicrous. He had a better strike rate than Mane and Jota for quite a while earlier on this season. So to come back and do the same again, having not started too many games recently, I think you're pretty much looking at 5 forwards. And they know they've only got 3 spaces to fight for in any given game, and I think it's a very, very good thing for Liverpool right now, given what we're going for and how much they are all pushing each other. That could prove pivotal in a couple more big games to come yet this season. The subs, I mean, obviously it was planned because he had them ready to go before the goal went in and didn't change his mind in the slightest. And I've spoken with David quite a few times about this on Raw, on Scouted as well. A lot of this team, this first team of Liverpool, we play better, we have better rhythm, the passing is sharper and all the rest of it when they're playing every 4 days or so. Not when we have a week off, not when they go away for a warm weather training camp and they come back and it's intolerably slow sometimes and looks really sloppy instead of what you'd think would be energetic and everything. So I think that this is just a continuation of that. We didn't want them to play the whole game. And certain players like the fullbacks, for example, because it's so demanding on them, they need the whole game off. But some of these players, the ones who we look to game after game to help us not lose in terms of some of the players and win in terms of some of the players, we want to keep their rhythm up. We want to keep their peak sharpness there as well. So I think bringing these guys on with half an hour or just over to play is a big indication of who's definitely going to be in the team and possibly 1 or 2 of those who went off as well.
I think that's fair, isn't it, Dave? And the only thing you have to ask yourself then is, there will always be a school of thought that would say, well, you want rhythm, you want minutes in their legs, but not too many. Fucking start them, get the game put to bed, and then hopefully blah, blah, blah. Now, that's always a very simplistic but old-fashioned, but also has merit kind of way of looking at things. How about that? Does that hold any water with you?
Really know what to make of Klopp's substitutions and that today in terms of what it means for the weekend. We've also got that Man City game on the horizon in the league, which, the league takes priority over the FA Cup regardless of anything else. So it's hard to know really what Klopp is planning. You certainly would hope that James Milner going off early is not an indicator that he will start at the weekend, because watching James Milner try and wander his way around that giant pitch at Wembley could be absolutely disgusting. The poor fella, he might actually get lost on the pitch and not know how to get back to his position. It's that big.
Specifically say some of them.
that midfield that ended the game, that's the midfield that should start at the weekend. I mean, it is the midfield that works the best. I saw some people say, oh, well, look how open we were. Were we really, though? Were we any more open when they were on than before that? Because the 2 goals they got from here on are both down to just poor individual errors by Joe Gomez and then Ibu of not holding the defensive line. If the line is what it should be, then neither goal counts. They had the goal ruled out in the first half as well. There was just, throughout the game, that we just seemed to be kind of not as razor sharp on the line as we should be. And with Virgil there, I think it all comes together a lot better. Klopp will do something strange. Like, he could start Harvey Elliott at the weekend for all we know. He could start Curtis Jones at the weekend for all we know. So I wouldn't really read too much into what he did today in terms of either the starting 11 or the substitutions. I do just think it was a case of, let's just get through this one. We've got a 2-goal advantage. They're not going to beat us by 2 clear goals here. So let's just get through this, get minutes into everyone's legs, and we'll head on regardless for Saturday. Saturday it is.
It is Saturday, and there's sort of an instant impact because one thing we didn't see too much of in the first hour or so was beautifully weighted passes. There was that one from Milner, and there was that one from Henderson, and credit where it's due. They were both good balls and both created opportunities. But immediately, Thiago's on the field within a couple of seconds. Yeah.
Trev, which well-weighted ball from Milner are you discussing? Not the one that finds its way through to Bobby.
No, dude, I'm trying to give him credit for something he didn't mean. You know that. Come on.
That's outstanding.
I'm trying to slip it in there because I want something nice. I wanted to say something positive. I did say on the set of first, I'm going to give him credit for it, even if he didn't mean it. But the Thiago straight on the field, great ball out to the flank. We've seen it a million times. We saw an even better version of it at the weekend that led to a goal. And Mo then plays a nice ball into Joe Gomez. His cutback to Naby was almost flicked home by Bobby Firmino. We had to wait another 4 minutes before we did see Bobby scoring. It came from a lovely Tsimikas free delivery on the left. Bobby times a run from the back post kind of area really well and volleys home beautifully. Now, it's a gorgeous goal. I think if any opposition team scores that against my defence, I'd want to kill the defenders because Bobby shouldn't be able to do what he did there. He shouldn't be able to just sort of make his way forward from an onside position and time his run forward to such an extent that he can execute this gorgeous volley where he looks as if he should be offside. He looks like he should be miles offside when he's making contact. But he's able to time that run and nobody goes with him. I'd be furious. I don't give a shit though. It's our player and I can't believe how good it is to see that. I feel so, I want to echo what Karl's saying. It feels great to see Bobby doing Bobby bits again because again, to echo what Karl says, who knows how fucking absolutely vital that might be for us over the next couple of weeks and months. So just to talk a little bit about that goal, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to as far as the Yaremchuk goal with Karl, and then I'll chat about the Nunes one with you. So just talk to me a little bit about that, the immediate impact anyway of the lads and that Bobby goal.
Me or Karl?
That's to you, Dave, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said to Karl. Okay. Yeah, no, I thought once they came on, I thought they started to look very comfortable straight away. It was very much, it did just seem to be about getting minutes in their legs and letting them go out and enjoy themselves and knock the ball about and create things. But unfortunately, because Bobby had obviously gotten his goal and everybody was very happy for him, and then obviously we'd go and get another goal with Bobby, it did kind of seem like everybody wanted to get him a hat-trick, almost to the detriment of putting the ball in the back of the net when others had chances. I disagree with Karl on the first Bobby goal. I don't really think it's much to do with Bobby. I just think the keeper has a howler and Vertonghen just does a really stupid thing. Bobby might be in the vicinity, but there's absolutely no excuse for an experienced defender to blindly just clip a ball into the right back channel without looking to see if there's anyone there. Like, put the fucking thing in the stands if you've got any doubt. He had plenty of time. He had 5 yards of space around him. But yeah, I mean, look, Thiago looked lively when he came on. Fab looked lively. I wonder with Fab as well if it was a little bit about getting him sort of back in his rhythm after a fairly shite performance against City. With Salah, again, I think it was an opportunity maybe to get him a goal and get his confidence back up. But there was some really nice football played in the spell from when the substitutions were made till the end of the game. It's just, we were very relaxed. There was no real... It didn't feel like we were all that pushed about forcing the issue. Do you know what I mean? Like, we didn't clamp down on them when they started to have a bit of the ball or they started to try and attack in certain ways. It was almost like, okay, you have an attack, then we're going to have an attack, then you can have an attack. Almost as if it was a bit of a training game mentality.
Yeah, it had a weird sort of relaxation to it that I couldn't understand myself either. And Carl, we make it yet another bit of a tinkering on 65 minutes with Sadio coming on to get some minutes as well. Now I'm watching my timeline there around about that time because it was one of the only times I felt like I had freedom to glance at my phone. A lot of consternation about what are we bringing on all these worldies of ours for. Well, as the game went on, they brought on, by the way, at the same time, Jean Mario came on for Tarabt. That's in 65 when Sadio comes on as well. On 67, there's a Simicus cross. Mo nods it down, and I think it's Naby Keita as an effort that's not too far away at all. But on 71, it's back to 3-2, and it's Yaremchuk. It's a through ball, and basically Yaremchuk finds himself in a situation where he can take the ball around. Ali doesn't come in a way that struck me as weird because he's normally so proactive getting off the line, but in this situation he didn't. He kind of stood. Yaremchuk advanced, took the ball around him and finished. It went to VAR and it was given. Now, you will have some takes on this. Again, because I'm watching the very cheap, no budget BT, saw very limited by way of replays. So I'd be interested to hear your take on the goal itself and the concession of it. I heard Dave earlier on reckon that there's a little bit of a flaw in both of these two goals in terms of a player or other not quite getting the line right. What did you think about that Yaremchuk goal to make it 3-2?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a thing that we have had an issue with quite a few times, quite a few games for quite a few seasons, to be honest. It's the runner from deep when we do play a high line. It's not necessarily always the one who is the actual centre forward, but someone else who's making the second run. This one was Yaremchuk, obviously. I think this one was Gomez, who was just a little bit too deep, if I'm remembering it rightly. He was like a good yard or two, but basically it comes from no pressure on the ball in midfield. That's what allows that through ball to go through what was quite a big gap, actually. I did try and watch that one back after the game, but it didn't go back enough seconds to see what happened, how we lost possession, to be honest, because we were quite stretched between Gomez and Matip, and then Matip and Kanate as well. And with the ball going in between sort of the right side as such down that channel, neither of them were ever going to be pacey enough or in position enough to get back and make a challenge. I don't know whether Alisson maybe thought that one was like miles offside, because it didn't look like Matip turned and sprinted back, and they were obviously arms up, and then the flag did go up afterwards. So I don't know whether everyone just really, really thought it was a clear offside, and obviously didn't realise that Gomez was a step or two back there.
Yeah, and I'm just tempted to stay with you to talk about the second goal that we concede as well, and then I'll go back to Dave to get his take on both of them, because that's 71 minutes. And then we go back to trying to do a few bits. 74 minutes, Bobby plays in Mo into some space. His ball to Sadio, again, it's a potential open goal, is under hit. Otamendi manages to get there ahead of him. They bring on Bernardo for Ramos, I think it is, on 77. And on 79 minutes, Simicus and Sadio and Mo all combine to get Bobby in. Probably one of those ones that Dave's chatting about earlier on. Bobby's effort is blocked. And then 2 minutes later, it's bloody 3-3, and it's Nunez. Jean Mario kind of gets the ball forward to him. His finish is past Alisson. It goes to VAR, and it's given. It's good again. It's not this Nunez kid is some player, because I think only 1 minute later, it's the same lad has a volley, which is saved brilliantly at full stretch with an outstretched arm and a big strong hand right in the bottom corner by Alisson. So yeah, Nunez has plenty about him, and we were coughing up opportunities left, right and centre. It's a bit of a shit show, for being honest. On the concession of this one, I'll just get your take, and then, like I say, I'll go back to Dave for his take on both of them as well.
Ali save. It was a huge, big pour down, wasn't it? I would have been a bit concerned had that one crept in, to be honest, because then suddenly it's only 1 and quite a few minutes left on the clock still, and being so quick after the previous goal went in, obviously there would be a big change in atmosphere and mentality of the Benfica players and all the rest of it. So that was quite an important save, and I think that was actually the only save that Alisson made all night, considering they scored about 8 times or whatever it was, with all the ones that were chalked off in the end and the ones that weren't. Kind of the same thing again for the goal though. Not enough pressure on the ball. Spaces in midfield, and I think it was just Konate was a yard or so deeper this time than Matip. So I take the line from where you want, to be honest. Usually it's the centre-back who's usually closer to the ball, or do what Virgil tells you, but since neither of those really happened this time, it's just another one of those inch-perfect runs. Fair play to him. And again, an absolutely brilliant finish, I have to say. All of them were all night.
Well, yeah, it's so much added fuel to the fire that your da has set in motion, talking about Liverpool's high line. It's fucking infuriating, I have to say.
Rob Green all night. Jesus Christ. Like, you're a goalkeeper, mate. Shut up.
What's this, man?
He kept going on about the high line. Even the last Nunes one that was disallowed, where they're building up at the edge of our box and Nunes wanders like 2 or 3 yards offside. Rob Green goes, another high line from Liverpool. We're literally defending in our own penalty area. Like, he just could not stop all game long talking about the high line and the high line and the high. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, is this the first time you've watched us play this season? Like, yeah, maybe it's a bit more risky when Virgil's not there because there's no one there calling the line. But I mean, at the same time, playing that way is what allows us to be the team we are. If we don't play that high line, we aren't able to control games the way we do, and we aren't able to press the way we do. Like, it's a fundamental pillar of how we play. And yet, you've still got these absolute fucking bellends been paid substantial amounts of money across a multitude of platforms, waffling on BT, on Sky when you watch Liverpool play there, on NBC, CBS, whatever platform you're watching the games on. And I was watching CBS tonight. They just never shut up about the high line. Like, how many times all season have we been caught before tonight with that high line? Once, maybe? That's actually led to a goal? Otherwise, it's just constant offsides. And if Gomez steps out the way he should because he's looking directly across the line, then that's no problem. The Ibu one is a little bit iffy because he's sort of side on and the ball goes through the middle. But at the same time, like, it works far more often than it doesn't. And when it doesn't work, well, we've got the best goalkeeper in the world. So, like, there's a reason we have him. There's a reason when we wanted players for certain positions, such as goalkeeper, holding midfield and centre-back, we went and bought the very best in class who fit playing a certain way. Ali is a sweeper keeper, Virgil to allow us to defend on the halfway line, and Fabinho as Dyson, as the one who can just hoover up everything in front. Like, we do this by design. It's not fluke. It's not some lucky thing where we chance our arm every game. And, you know, when you hear things like, oh, they were saved by VAR or whatever other nonsense you get, like in the cup final against Chelsea. No, VAR is there for a reason. And because we're a really smart football club with a really smart manager and really intelligent players, we use it to our advantage. Like, it's not a gamble when VAR are there. You're not playing the percentages. It's a factual rule and a rule checker, and we're going to use it to our advantage.
I mean, this should not be controversial. This should not be something that you have to point out, and yet it is. And it's just, I think, the most interesting thing about it is it doesn't matter what channel whoever's listening to us here now live in the Discord was watching, whatever gimp of a pundit was servicing the channel for you was shiting on about Highlines like they don't understand, because they don't understand. And that's the really, really horrible, saddening thing about it. It's just the game's just bereft of proper analysts. It just is. How they can't see these things, I don't know. I want to just talk about the end of the game. I'll stay with you, Dave, for that. Then I'll go to Karl for his wrap-ups, and I'll finish the show with you this week, Dave. But let's just look at the end of the game, myself and yourself here. There is that Núñez volley on 82 minutes, just after he's put them 3-3. It's a fantastic save by our man. Mo and Sadio combined then a little bit later on. That leads to a corner. 85 minutes from that corner, Thiago, the ball breaks to me, volleys one over the top. 90 minutes, Mo pulls off a bit of great skill. Sadio had the ball in the net, but he was offside. And, you know, if Mo could have finished the opportunity instead of squaring the ball to Sadio, that would have been preferable. There's about 5 minutes added. We bring on Divock for Bob, but Div's straight into it. Fair play to him. The crowd's loving him, all the rest of it. There's a chance in 93 minutes when Mo cuts in and tries the patented Mo Salah shot to the top corner, and it's just over. And, you know, I'm just going to go out there and say I think we could really have fucking done with that going in, but, you know, enough negativity for me. And then Núñez has the ball in the net again in 94 minutes. This time he is comparatively clearly offside. That's how the game panned out, and it's, you know, including that late sort of worry where, you know, it's a perfect example of what we've just been talking about. Lads can batter the ball into the back of our net all they like once they're offside, and we just need to get that fucking right. And if we do get it right, and we get it right most of the time, especially as you said, when Virgil's a common denominator, then, you know, this whole conversation is redundant. And that chance, in inverted commas, from Núñez doesn't get talked about because it shouldn't get talked about, but it will get talked about. That's where we're at. Is there anything from that last little spell from the time the game went 3-3? If anything, that period was the most surreal period of the match, where you just didn't know what to feel or think because it just was weird. It was fucking weird. Is there anything you want to pick out from that last little section of the game at all?
Just that Ali save. Like, that is a phenomenal save that he has made look quite easy. And even Darwin Núñez, when he's been interviewed after the game, said he doesn't know how he made the save. So it's just an incredible save. He thought the ball was in. I thought Darwin was really good again tonight. I think he's very much one I'd like to see us pursue this summer, because I do think it will be nice to have that sort of number 9 type who could get us quite a few goals. I think he'd score for absolute fun in this team. I think, like, Jesus Christ, the idea of Salah, Núñez and Diaz as a front three would be a terrifying proposition for anybody. Like you said, the last few minutes of the game were all a bit weird. Like, Darwin has that one in the net. He's clearly offside. He knows he's offside in that one as well. He didn't in the one in the first half, but he knew he was offside for that one. He got annoyed with himself. And it kind of seemed like if we had wanted to, we could have gone up the field and scored. But again, we're overplaying things. Salah decides to try and beat everybody, and then he scuffs his shot right-footed. All things considered, Divock came on. That was nice. Divock got a bit of a run around. Probably the last time he gets a run for us in the Champions League game as well. So that's always nice to see. But no, look, it was a strange game. You know, there was, like I said at the start, there was good football, there was meh football, and there was bad football. And that's just sort of how the game played out. There was spells where both teams were good. We were good, they were bad. They were good, we were bad. Both teams were a bit meh. There were spells where, you know, neither team seemed to really care what the final result were. Then they sort of realised they were going out and got a little bit of a fire under their backsides. But at that point, they were 6-2 down on aggregate. It didn't really make much of a difference. All they really did was just sort of give the scoreline a bit of respectability. But nobody who watched the two legs would come away thinking anything other than we thoroughly deserved to go through. And now we're on to Villarreal. And now I can drag Karl into conversations about Unai Emery. We can talk more and more about the legend that is Alberto Moreno, who is the glue that binds both clubs. I think Jan Gronkamp is another one that we signed from them as well many years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So, there's plenty of good stuff ahead in the Champions League. I think we'd all rather Villarreal than Bayern. As difficult as Villarreal will be, nobody really wanted to play Bayern. They're the type of team that on their day can just tear anybody apart. You'd still have backed us to win, but I think this is a bit more straightforward. And going into the weekend, we've got most of our players have either been rested or have only played half the game, whereas City have just had yet another war of attrition in Madrid. Jack Grealish had his hair pulled, had a little cry. Phil Foden had a little cry. City ran away from Atleti in the tunnel when Atleti tried to just, an old-fashioned, I'll see you in the tunnel afterwards, let's have a bit of a scrap type of thing. Diego Simeone wound up everybody. Jamie O'Hara is currently on TalkSport having a cry. And all in all, City's just had a very tiring game that's also seen Kevin De Bruyne and Kyle Walker go off injured. So that could put them at a distinct disadvantage come this weekend, which again feeds into our advantage. So, all things considered, a good night's work, both at home and with our brothers in Madrid.
You know what? You've basically given me your final thoughts there. I'm not going to torment you anymore by asking you to do a further stint with me, man, because you've pretty much summed it all up there in terms of overall thoughts. So just do finish by letting folks know what you've got coming up for the week.
Two-footed every day, 4 p.m, Daily Red every day around lunchtime. There'll be a Scouted with Karl ahead of the City game. With time constraints for the United game, I wonder, should we maybe do one? I'll leave it up to Karl to decide, but maybe do one for both Manchester clubs because, Saturday, Tuesday is a little bit tight to get one in on the Monday. But that's basically it. There's probably something else as well that I can't remember, but I'll be back for Raw at the weekend, and hopefully we'll be talking about a Reds win and advancement to an FA Cup final.
That would be very pretty indeed. Karl, your last wrap-up thoughts then on the match overall, and anything you'd like to let folks know that you've got coming up, please.
Just summed up by what we've said before, really. A bit of a crazy, silly, weird sort of game, and in the end we have gone through. I mean, even all the numbers don't necessarily sound the best. They just sound odd, to be honest. We're actually 2 games without a win now, which hasn't happened since the turn of the year. We've conceded 6 goals in the last 3 games, which is almost unheard of given how good our defence is. And yet none of the results and none of the goals we conceded have actually been in any way damaging or fatal to our trophy hopes in any competition at all. So kind of sums up what tonight has been, to be perfectly honest. I was trying to look for a couple of stats from the games which might be useful or insightful, but I can't. They're just nonsense as well. The best I can find is that Bobby Firmino had as many tackles as Luis Diaz had shots, and Bobby Firmino also had as many shots as our entire defence had tackles. So make of that what you will. Diogo Jota basically did nothing in attack other than accidentally assist.
Spectacular. And in terms of what you've got coming up, my friend, for the week, obviously the Scouted, as mentioned by Dave. What else have you got?
I have some sort of reaction to this game when I can figure out what on earth to say about it. I do want to highlight again that Kanate, brilliant. Naby Keita, first half middling to poor, second half largely exceptional, I thought. Passing completion rate in either half pretty much points to that improvement as well. He was 65% in the first half and 92% in the second half. So put it together, Naby, if you're starting at the weekend, and do a whole game one for us. I will also have something European football wise ahead of the weekend, because obviously our attentions are going to be on Wembley, but my God, there's a lot of big games this weekend all around Europe, so look out for that.
Yeah, look forward to reading about those, and particularly going to focus on watching your mind spill out onto the page as you try to discuss this particular weirdness that was tonight's game. But you know what? The only thing that matters is that we do advance to a Champions League semi-final. That's our Reds. You gotta love them. You gotta have faith in them. And we have a game at the weekend against Manchester City, a semi-final of the FA Cup. We'll be back to chat to you about that on Raw, and we'll be back to chat to you about every single game between now and the end of the season. Hopefully, we'll also be doing retrospectives all summer long about trophies won, because that is exactly what we're all in it for. So on behalf of myself, Dave Hendrick, Karl Matchett, producer Guy Drinkle, everybody in the Discord group, thanks to you for chipping in and chiming in. I've been Trev Downey. We'll talk to you again soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.